Hello and welcome to my Scarlet basic guide for Scarlet. We're going to cover pretty much everything that is in the command list. I'm not going to touch on advanced concept and stuff like crushing blows, option selects, pressure, all the stuff that will come later. This is going to be just a basic guide to get you started. I have been playing Scarlet and only Scarlet since day one. I have entered a few local and online tournaments, only playing Scarlet, only playing Art Pierce, which is the first variation, and the guide will be for Hard Pierce, the first variation Scarlet has. So without losing any more time, let's just start. I'm going to start by talking about normals, quick prick, 7 frame startup standing jab. This is how it looks like. It's I would say below average jab. It's quite fast, but it has some recovery and is really used only either as some specific anti-air or mostly as a part of a 1-2 or 1-2 4 string. Not really much to say about this. Slick Scimitar, back one. This is how it looks like. This is also another move that is mostly used in strings, mainly back 1-2, which also gives you access to a crushing blow. Not a lot to say, quite slow as a move. It has some decent range, you can hit from decent ranges. But outside the string, it doesn't really have any uses. Sometimes it can be used as a poke or kind of a frame trap by getting some range, or to forbid, not really forbid, to prevent the opponent from jumping in specific strings and with specific frame advantage. Going on, we have silent stab, your crouching jab. This is a average crouching jab, really. Not a lot of range, maybe a little bit more than some characters, but overall 7 frame startup, -5 on block, +8 on it. I know you can do crouching jab into standing jab if you hit, and it's a 1 frame kind of stagger where the opponent cannot crouch it, but it is risky and you can hit a crushing blow D2 for it, so I wouldn't really advise going for this. Slicing Scimitar. This is a very good poke button cannon. Don't really have a lot of stuff to do because every cancel can be countered. So if you do standing 2 into fireball, they can duck it and punish the recovery. They do standing 2 into blood ball, they can interrupt it. If you do this, if you do standing 2 into tentacle, they can flawless block the tentacle and punish you. Is -16. It's mostly to really just poke because it's 0 on block. Just poke there and um, create space and maybe bait people to press a button, but nothing, really nothing more than that. You can also do this string, which is 2-1, which leaves you at -5 but at the range, and since Scarlet has a great range, sometimes you can bait the opponent into whiffing a button with a backdash. Side slam, it's the overhead, very unsafe on block. This is a button that you should hit only if you think that 100% you're going to hit, because you're going to get punished and get punished hard, even at max range, which should be a little bit forward. There we go. You will get punished even there. It goes into a pretty painful crushing blow. But other than that, it doesn't really have a lot of uses. Sometimes it can get people out from the sky when you have people like Cabal or Jade that jump and throw fireballs. If you can read that and you act quick enough at distance, you can use it as an orthodox anti-air. Um, Whip Snap is forward 2. This is probably the best poke that Skarlet has overall. It's a 13 frame startup. It's only active 2. It can work kind of as an anti-air, but it doesn't work all the way up. I will show you the animation. So about over their head, slightly over their head, it will lose the hitbox, so people will actually jump on top of you. So I wouldn't recommend using it as an anti-air there. But it's mostly good because it makes some things unjumpable, and the opponent is forced to block if they block the forward 2. So mainly this into Fireball or this into Tentacle. You can also use it to force staggers and frame advantage on block if your opponent doesn't crouch the Blood Bolt that comes after. And generally is a good button to create space between you and the opponent. Some players will, after blocking a forward 2 into this or a forward 2 into Blood Bolt backdash to create space and make your forward 2 with. You can use that to dash forward and hit your 3, which has better range and it's still cancelable. Watch out though, because it's a high, so they can crouch it. Cutter, average down to really not a lot to say. Startup is 10. It looks like pretty much any other down to in the game. Is a good anti-air, is your universal anti-air, although Skarlet has better ones than her down 2, which is still like pretty reliable. Standing 3, you can see the animation here. That's pretty damn good range. So this is your max range, and it's cancelable, so you can do stuff like that, or you can do stuff like Blood Bolt or normal Fireball. It's mostly used as a tool to keep the distance. It's a poke where you know they're not going to be neutral crouching. So what happens is if they neutral crouch, they can go under it. I'll show it to you. Custom. So if they're staying like that, go completely over them, even at 0 range, even at max range. So it's a button that you should use when you think they're going to either crouch block, stand, or jump. Because it has a lot of recovery. It's not bad on block. If I remember right, it's only -7, and with that range, you're not gonna be punished by many characters, if any at all. Type mode. Okay, let's put it back to standing. Also, it's a good button to anti-air far jumps. Stuff like this, especially if they're like approaching to throw a fireball but they're not throwing it yet. Stuff like this, really. At range is where your forward 2 will whiff. And it's not reliable. You have standing 3, which is reliable. Spear stab back 1. Let me just put it into custom. So this is overall by itself is not the greatest button. It's actually unsafe on block. -12 characters like Sub-Zero can punish you with a reversal slide, but it has a lot of use for Skarlet into the shrink back 3-4 that we'll see later a little bit more in detail. Overall, it's just a low poke. Really, there's nothing more than that. It's option selectable, but this will be covered maybe in the advanced guide. So at the moment, not a lot of utility for this. Spear strike down 3. This is generally your the substitute for a kick button. The other characters have their down 3. This is Skarlet's 1. It has pretty good range, not the greatest, and is bad on block, kind of like other down 3s. It's cancelable, but everything you can cancel it in can either be crouch or interrupted. So I wouldn't really use it. I wouldn't really cancel unless you condition your opponent some other way. Snap kick, standing for. This is a very good button. Once again, if you think they're not going to crouch, neutral crouch, because once again, this is a real high, so you're never going to hit them at any range for the standing for. However, it goes into a true block string, and if I remember right, the gap between the two standing for is uncrouchable and unfatal. Like you cannot get through with a fatal blow. We're going to check that in a minute. Stand. So if I was to put that into all block type, all block. Yeah, it's on all block. So this one, if I was to record it myself, I would try and get through with a fatal blow. Blocking. There is no gap whatsoever. Even if you mash fatal blow, you're not going to be able to get through. So it cannot be flawless block either. So it's a true block string all the way too. It leaves you at +6 on block, if I remember right. That this is the string, not just the single button. The single button is +1 on block. So let me quickly see. Yes, +6 on block. Also, the cancel into what's it called? Into tentacle cannot be flawless blocked, or it cannot be fatal blown through. So that's another thing. Overall, it can be situational anti-air. It can be a good poke. Not the greatest distance that it leaves you at. So it's not going to be a button like, you know, stepping to forward to that can create distance a lot, because this will still leave you there. You have a frame of advantage. We don't do much with Skarlet with it, because Skarlet's buttons are quite slow. Her fastest through mid starts at 13, so you're not gonna use that a lot for that. Reaching whip is your sweep. It has incredible range, but absolutely terrible on block. It can be used as an amazing situational anti-air, namely when your opponent is trying to close the distance with you by jumping at range. I'll show you what I mean. Like, look at the distance here. It's amazing, and there's nothing they can do unless they have a air fireball or some other way to change their jump arc. It's not too active, so you have to be slightly precise. But overall, that's probably the best use of that move. Of course, you can use it to bait wake ups, namely up 3s and up 2s. Because you're going to be safe in case they wake up with something. Of course, also you have to be careful unless they, in case they roll forward, because you can be punished due to the extended recovery. Terrible on block. At any distance you can be punished. Once again, Sub-Zero slide is an easy punish for that move. And overall, I wouldn't really use it, you know, as a poke or as a sweep, because the gain that you get is not the greatest. You can create some space with the backdash to start your zoning, but really that's it. Gutbuster, forward 4. This is a great move to stagger with, because you can either do forward 4 or do forward 4-3, which is one of our strings that we'll see later. You can cancel this as well. You have pretty decent cancel advantage. It moves you forward. Forward 4-3, the string into fireball is great, because it gives you access to unskilled, well, not really unskilled, but not so skilled lifesteal with the amped fireball that we'll see later. Overall, is a pretty good move. That's how it looks like. It's a mid. And most likely the 4/4 into fireball should be unjumpable. I'm gonna see that. So I recorded it. Makes that unjumpable. But once again, it can be crouched, so be careful with that. And if I was to do the tentacle cancel, most likely it can be interrupted. So we're gonna test that. Oh no, but it can be flawless block, if I remember right, and then punch. So yeah, most likely you're gonna use it to as a stagger, as a shrink, but the shrink is flawless blockable if I remember right. So gonna touch on that later. Spinning sight. Now this is a very curious normal, because if I was to show it to you now, and if you read the description, it's actually a low, right? This is how it looks like. It's cancelable. Don't do a lot of stuff with it, mainly because the cancels are quite slow. However, it is a very, very good anti-air if you time right the button, like that. And it can lead to like full screen resets. We can start zoning and so on. I would say that actually the uses that it has as an anti-air are more than the uses that it has as a low, because as a low is mostly like a poke and not much more. However, as an anti-air, it can cover a lot of stuff if you have good reflexes. It can beat clean stuff like Baraka's jumping 4 or Gira's splashes and stuff like that. Jumping attacks. I would say that her jumping kicks are the best attacks that she has. Jumping 1 is actually good, but in my opinion is a bit harder to confirm into shrinks when you jump in. Block mode, auto. So that will be your confirm, but mostly what is notable about this button is the range that you get with the jumping 1. And it's important because you're gonna play kind of a mix-up when approaching with jumping 4 or jumping 1 because of the range. So if you delay the jumping 1, you get extremely good range. Also, it's good as air-to-air, because from the jumping 1, you can get a very easy 1, 2, 4 into this, or 1, 2, 4 into fireball for the lifesteal. And it can be useful in some matches where the opponent jump a lot because they have air fireball, because we'll see later on that it's very hard for Skarlet to deal with those. So jumping 1 as a preemptive air-to-air can help you a lot into in those matchups. Other than that, jumping 2 can be okay-ish as a jumping button. Not too much to say, to be honest. It's an easy confirm into 2-1-2, 2-1-2, 4-4. But mostly it's notable as a bait when you've already spent the crushing blow with the D2 and you're hard reading a throw. This is a easy confirm. Mostly because you can do jumping 2 into jumping 2, into standing 2-1, and then confirm, seeing if it hits or not. If it doesn't hit, you stop at jumping 2-1, and you're still -5, so you're still safe. Also, the kicks, the jumping kicks. It is to be mentioned, if you land a jumping kick with Skarlet, you have many ways to follow up with tight confirms. So I'll show you some stuff. Stuff like that. and even if they jump, you can dash and combo from a jump info. You just have to be ready for it. Punishing spear, clean zone kicks. These are your short hops. Not much to say about those. Really, they look like this. They're average. They're punishable on block. They're really hard reads on lows. At the beginning, it looked like it was a good answer for D1s, but not really. And they've lost kind of the use in competitive play. Your up 2 and up 3s. Now I should have a way to actually show you, so I'll record the dummy knocking me down. This is your up 3. So what is it? Side slice. So this is your up 3. This is the best of the wake up attacks. Fully invincible. It has great range. It has pretty decent vertical range. So if somebody jumps at you because they're trying to bait your up 3, if they're not precise, if they're a bit too low, they're still gonna get hit by the up 3. It has a great range. It can be low profiled, which is a bit annoying when playing, but overall is the best of your wake up attacks. It's plus 12 on it, so you can if you hit it, then you can kind of play your low or kind of stagger game off of that. Up to, unfortunately, in my opinion, is pretty terrible. Yes, it can lead into combos and as any other up to, but the range is really bad. It's really short. I'll show you again. I should not stay a little bit. Like already there, it doesn't hit, and it's terrible because of it really hurts the flawless block game that Skarlet has, which has already leads it to subpar damage. So I think is a pretty bad move, unless you're like hard reading a bad neutral jump. Forward throws and back throws. These have crushing blow properties. After a while, you can trigger them. They do a lot of damage. They're great, but mostly what is notable about them is that they give you a lot of capabilities for zoning. Let's put them down central screen. So you can have like meaty tentacles or risk, well, not really risk, do a blood ball to keep them there and then start reloading and so on. There is that like she doesn't really have a throw that leaves opponent close, which would have been ideal for choosing between sending somebody away to start the zoning and keeping somebody there to keep the pressure. This is a problem in matchups such as Scorpion, Cabal, Jade, characters that really can get at an angle that annoys you. It would have been great to have an option to keep them there, and usually that option is either a back 4 or a forward 2-1 string that leaves characters close, but as you pretty much give up on some damage. Rolls and breakaway are universal. Now, when it comes to string, I would say the Scarlet has pretty good ones, but at the same time, she's a little bit limited. This because she doesn't really have lows that lead into combos aside the corner and overheads that lead into combos. No real, not like real pressure either. So it's a character that lives and dies by the pokes and controlling the range, controlling the mid range, uh, baiting her opponent into doing something dumb, especially using back dashes and movement options and range. Air strings are quite interesting and they can be used mostly in situations of baits once again. So 1-2 is this string. Now there is no gap between 1 and 2, so the what's it called, the fatal blow, if I remember right, either won't come out or will be beat. Yeah, clean beat. And it is not flawless blockable, so you can use that pretty much sparingly. It's 9 on A and -6 on block, so if you get blocked, you're gonna lose your turn. Even if you were to cancel, you can probably be interrupted. It's a good string to kind of poke and see if if it hits, you have enough time to confirm into the next string, which is 1, 2, 4. However, this 1, 2, 4 is heavily flawless blockable. It's probably the string that most people learn to flawless block early against Skarlet. And Skarlet can also bait a flawless block. I'll show you how. Depending on the up 2 or up 3 that the opponent has. Sorry, up 2 and up 3. So I'll show you. Oops, I didn't hold enough. Right, so if I was to flawless block, Skarlet's up 2 is too fast for the parry to be triggered. I don't really practice this, being a Skarlet myself, but I probably should for later. You see, in this case, she gets punished, but there are some characters which the parry works on, because they're up 2 or up 3 arts. So in this case, Skarlet, I cannot show you, but trust me, you can use the parry reading the flawless block and up 2 or up 3, and they will get hit by the parry. What's it called? Custom. So if you are not flawless blocked by your opponent, this can create pretty decent range or pushback in a block situation. I'll show you auto block or block. So yeah, it leaves you at a range where you can easily bait something with either standing 2-1 or forward 2 into cancels. Overall, this is the string that you're going to also use often as a combo ender for lifesteals. I need to remove her from the old block. Really? What is happening? Block mode auto. So if you want your fireball into lifesteal, this is what you use. That also goes for anti-airing with air to airing with jumping 1. So if I read that my opponent is gonna jump on me, do stuff like that and get some life back. Back 1-2. Now this one, as I mentioned, is a string. It's a string. The back 1 pretty much. This one doesn't really have a lot of uses by itself, but as a back 1-2, this is a pretty decent anti-counter poke move if we want. If you're in a situation where you're doing stuff like, I don't know, standing 2 and they block and they try and touch a button, this usually gets them, or that. So situations in which you're losing the frame advantage but you have enough range and time to basically bait them to press a button. It can go into crushing blow that does pretty decent damage and will leave them in a state of bleeding. I will touch this in the advanced guide, but overall it's a pretty good button. It's safe on block. It's flawless blockable though, so you have to be careful once again not to be flawless blocked. 2-1. This is your basically this is the string that you would use to see if your poke has actually landed, because if you see that this has not landed, then you just stop there. You're -5 at the range, you're fine. You either block or backdash, or if you're expecting them to hit the slow button, you can do this to stop them. If you see that it has ended, then you go into 2-1, 2-2, 4-4 into tentacle. Now I fucked up my timing, but so yeah, overall is really a shrink that you can confirm by eye, which is really important. 2-1-2 is your punish, most likely of your opponent's with finger buttons or jumping from not close enough to land the button. So on. Forward 2-1. This is not really used a lot. It can be kind of a surprise tool and is not too risky because it's only -7 on block. Now I don't remember if it's flawless blockable. It might be because the gap seems quite wide. But overall, usually if you're using forward 2, you're cancelling either into this or into tentacles, because you can create some pressure, they're unjumpable and so on. Back 3-4. I would say that this is overall the most important shrink that Skarlet has, for a few reasons. Mainly advanced stuff, but this is how the shrink looks like, and it's a good shrink because it's a true low. So they cannot, crouch under or anything like that, and it leaves them at the range where you can start your zoning, and you can set up DPs on it, and so on. You can set up your zoning. It is flawless blockable. I think the second hit on a flawless block is -10. Yes. So it's not really punishable. Makes it easier for your opponent to get their turn, but aside situations where you have like Aaron's Black Fatal Blow or stuff that really starts in 10 and is irreversible, then you shouldn't really have too many problems. This goes into a lot of meaty situations because this back 3 into 4, due to the range of both heads, can elude some of the up trees in the game, so you can always use it on your opponent's wake up as a meaty to avoid that up tree but still punish them on the whiff. Other than that, it's good to create some space. I'll show you the space that it creates. Not too much, but it creates decent space on block as well. So yeah, see? And coagulation, this is the string that I was showing you earlier on when I was talking about the normal, the standing 4. Fully true block shrink here, +6 on block. This is probably the shrink that will leave you at frame advantage, the one that you should use if you want frame advantage. However, it's a double high, as you can read, so it's crouchable. The first hit is crouchable. If they block the second, even in crouch, they're not gonna be able to crouch. Sorry, if they block the first, they're not gonna be able to crouch the second. It's cancelable even on block, right? Yeah, so you can create space like that, or you can do stuff like if they don't crouch. Oops. And so on. That's also punishable, so careful. And forward 3-4. This is another string that it's only -1 on block. You can cancel, but I wouldn't advise you to, because all cancels are interactable or crouchable. Interruptible or crouchable. Sorry, not interactable. It's usually like your stagger, probably the only real stagger you have, aside the standing one used by itself. And it moves you forward. It goes on it into the fireball amp for lifesteal. I'll show you that one. Oops. Like that. And generally can be a good way to create some pressure. As you can stop here. Sorry. And then backdash or whatever. If I remember right, it leaves you close to the opponent though at -1, and that's not really where you want to be. So you have to be careful with that. Yeah, see? -1 and there. So not ideal. It has some uses. It's probably the best offensive tool she has, because she's not an offensive character overall. But yeah, those are the uses really. So we have come to the special moves section. Once again, I'm doing this guide for the heart piece variation, so that will reflect onto the special moves I touch on. To start, we have Blood Ritual. Now, this is a next to useless special move, unfortunately. How it works is you enter a stance, and after a while you sacrifice 10 points of your life for 5 of your opponent. You can hold it for a while, so overall you can get basically 40 damage to your opponent. Yeah, 40 damage. But overall, it is so slow to actually start after the position has been taken, and the game has so many options to either close distance or throw a fireball that's not really used. So the only situation in which you would use it, realistically, it's either if your opponent is at full screen and you have like 10, they have like 10 damage, or if they've just been hit by the back to 1 crushing blow, which leads them to bleed, which will not kill them, but just 5 of this damage actually will. So yeah, this is really what you can use it for. Don't use it in any other situation, because you're gonna get punished for it. I don't think this special move is worth a slot, but apparently NRS thought so. Now, the next special move is the parry. This is very useful, and one of the reasons why I think this is the main variation that you should play as Skarlet. The parry covers, once again, as we were seeing, some flawless block situations, so it can be used as a hard read to counter the flawless block the opponent will throw. But aside that, it can be used as into D1 wars. So if you are going to D1 on your opponent and you think that they will D1 back after blocking yours, this is a good tool. Overall, is a good tool for situations where you minus and you think they're going to touch a button. If you think that their attack will come in 9 frames or higher, then you can probably throw a parry in there. However, the parry covers mids, eyes, and throws, and it loses to lows, jumps, and projectiles. So pretty much any special that is not in physical, although there are some exceptions. Now this is very good because the amped version of the parry will give you life back, and is a pretty good amount as well. If I remember right, it's actually the highest amount you can get. Yeah, 95 back. So it's great, and is a great way to use your meter because Skarlet doesn't use a lot of it. Overall, it's also good because it gives you a side switch. So especially if you're in the corner against your opponent. Let me get in there. So if you're there against your opponent and you manage to scout the parry, it will leave you away. But even if you're not in the corner, if you're actually on this side, you can always use the teleport to get away. So I'll try to show you again. Oops. You can get the teleport to get out. What else to say about the parry? It can also be used as a way to confuse low-level opponents, because once they see the parry, they might not be able to react fast enough with the low. So you can do stuff like, I'll show you, like D1s into parry, deactivate, and it keeps doing this. And some opponent will be too slow to actually react with the low or with the jump in. Next is Bloodshot, aka your like normal fireball. Now this starts in 21, which is good because it can compete if shot at the same time full screen against any projectile in the game, including Sonya's rings. But what is very good about this is the of course the lifesteal back. Now the lifesteal by itself is 76. However, the longer your combo is, sorry. I'll leave this. Yes, the longer your combo is, the higher is the scaling. So from 76 we went to 42. So you need to consider that as well. How much life back do I want, and how much am I sacrificing in damage not to get the scaling, basically to go too low for the lifesteal. So the amp version will give you life back. The normal version will just do damage. Another good thing about the what's it called, the fireball, is that there is only, if I remember right, well, it's depending by the range, but even like close by is like -5 on block. Yeah, see. So that is a good thing because you can use it to end your combo. Sorry, your block, your shrink that will be blocked kind of safely if they don't if they are not able to crouch the fireball. If they crouch the fireball, you're gonna get punished. Blood Bowl. This is your tool to control pretty much the range, the neutral. Especially when you have like a knockdown with this, you place that, and it is jumpable, but there are some specific setups. I have videos for it where you can land either a fireball or a tentacle. You can land a lot of stuff, pretty much guaranteed, because of how much ground they cover. You can send people back in the corner with a blood trail and then stagger them and so on. It is a plus on block, if I remember right, pretty much at any range. No, hold on. Custom or block. Yeah, even then it's like plus 27. So yeah, it's plus and block even close by. Well, no, sorry, -3, but still safe. But generally, the problem with this move is that it can be fully crouch, so neutral crouch, and you have to be careful because some characters will be able to basically poke you and then cancel when the ball is off of them and still punish you. In the other variation, you can control the pace of the ball for a meter. Personally, I don't think that's really worth. Doesn't really do that much. You can get some of the setups that Sonic Fox was talking about to make some things that would be minus plus, but I don't really believe much into it. The other special move is Blood Splatter, and it can be amped with basically, which will lead into combos, especially in the corner. It's usually a combo extender. You can use it as a preemptive anti-air, but it's a bit slow. It has good hitbox, especially if you amp it, but against some jump-ins and against characters that will fireball, it's almost useless. Overall, it's used as a combo extender in the corner. I don't even know many of the combos because I don't think this is that useful. So I don't think it's like the greatest of special. You can do some things with it. You can also bait roll forwards. So if you think your opponent will roll forward on block, you can do this and amp it, and you're gonna get a 1-2-4 into fireball, 1-2-4 into tentacle, but that's like more advanced stuff. Also, it can be used against some slow teleports, like for example Kung Lao, which gives away the fact that it's teleporting with the animation of throwing the hat. You can do this into amp and still get the combo there as well, but that's kind of more specific stuff. Blood Trail. This is a great move, not only because you can use it for zoning. So like if you're using this and they jump, you can anti-air them with that. Sometimes you can catch people unprepared if you use it in block string. By that, they might be stand blocking for whatever reason, and you can hit them with that. Also, the animation of hitting is a bit confusing because people think like they're going to get knocked down somehow, so you can use it as a way to basically do staggers or like baits and so on. They will either stop blocking or trying to jump or whatever, so it's pretty decent. The amped version withstands for a +13 if I remember right, like after combos. Like if you do it in combos, if I remember the combos with restand, because I don't use them much. Like that. Well, it's actually +25. But yeah, it's a restand. You don't get a combo after if you restand them, but you can put them in a pretty good mix-up. However, since you don't have, once again, lows or highs that lead into combo outside corners, I don't think is the greatest option, because you always want the reset into zoning capabilities, so full screen, unless you're playing characters that will basically work around your zoning, like Scorpion or whatever. Blood Tentacle, this is probably your most important special because it's the one that enables all of your zoning. It's a hard knockdown, is +34 full screen. It's amazing because you can set meaties there. They will not be able to do anything, teleports, sometimes even fatal blow. If you can meet it, they won't be able to fatal blow. You can catch like characters like Scorpion before they teleport if you time it right. However, it's risky because they can delay the wake up and then teleport when this whiffs, because it does a lot of recovery. Overall is the move that will enable you to start your zoning, your projectiles zoning, and generally it gives a lot of opponent a hard time, because even on a trade, most of the time you're gonna have the win, because a lot of projectiles don't knock you down. Instead, this on a trade will knock the opponent down, so you will still have advantage to start a blood ball or use your fireball or use this. You can of course, there's like different ranges. This is your close, this is your normal, and this is your far tentacle, which you can use in conjunction with like other normals and other tools such as forward 2 and to anti-air and so on. You also have like some setups for zoning, but you can see them in another video. And you also have the teleport. Now the teleport is, it looks good, but it's terrible in my opinion. Now it starts in 1, which is great, but it recovers in 42. So what happens is that you use this option for hard reads mostly. So if you see that, for example, you're playing the mirror, right? And as we saw, this takes a lot to start, so it has a lot of recovery as well. So if I was to do this and still block, you can see that I'm blocking. Ideally, you would use the teleport that way. Oops, sorry. And punish. However, most of the moves are not that bad. The moves that you would use the teleport as a tool to punish other moves, these moves are actually better than, you know, a tentacle, as we demonstrated here. So you end up teleporting on somebody and either not being able to punish despite having the hard read, or losing your turn because they would not use the option, and you will need it so much to get behind the opponent that you try to hard read and you actually get punished for it. So the different versions of the teleport are normal teleport. You will go behind them straight, like very close, even closer than D1 range. Then you have the far teleport, which uses the meter, and you hold the forward for it. So you can see that the distance is quite big. And you also have, if I remember right, yeah, the back teleport, which still uses meter, but it appears in front of them. Now, I would say that the only real use for these different teleports, it's only the far one, because the one where you stay in front, it still has a lot of recovery. They're not going to be confused as to where you land ever, because it's not fast enough. So you'll just end up getting punished. What is good about the teleport, though, especially the metered version, is that you can use it once you have started your zoning game with Skarlet and stuff like that. You know, they're coming towards you and so on. You're close to the corner. You can shoot your last blood bolt and make it safe, and just get out with the teleport. Now, some characters, they can still punish you because they will come at you before they're hit by the blood bolt. But most players don't know that, so you can use that to start your zoning again, and do it again when you're back in the corner. And last but not least, your Fatal Blow. 13 frame startup, I would say, is quite average. Basically the same, almost or exactly. No, it's a bit different, but it's almost the animation for the throw. So you can see how it starts. There's armor like any other Fatal Blow. Is you can amplify the damage by pressing 3 before the damage before the hits come in. But overall, it has not the greatest range. Oops. Oh. Yeah, that's probably the max range with dash cancel. It does a lot of damage. This is without the what's it called? Without the amplification of damage. But yeah, overall, some characters fly at you with their fatal blows. Some characters can cover full screen with their shots. Some characters run or teleport behind you. So this doesn't really have any extra utility aside being a fatal blow, which you would use in any fatal blow situation.